Old School RuneScape is a game filled with remarkable locations, whether it's castles, caves, or rooms with valuable treasure. Now, many of these places require a key to enter. For example, think of the Dusty Key in Teverley Dungeon or the Battered Key for the Elemental Workshop. But what if there was one single key that could open every door in the game? And maybe even more than just doors. Good day everyone, my name is Vannaka, and today I want to talk about a concept for a new item in Old School RuneScape, the Skeleton Key. There are countless types of keys in the game, and sometimes I go crazy trying to keep everything organized. But some of you might be thinking, wait a second, isn't there already something like this? And you're right, there is an item called the Steel Key Ring, which can hold certain keys. However, the use of this item is quite limited. It can only hold up to 13 different keys, and it doesn't really do much beyond that. So today, I want to explore whether we can design the ultimate version of the Steel Key Ring. One that every player in the game would want to have in their possession. So what exactly is a skeleton key? I didn't pick this name at random, you know. In real life, the term is used for keys that can open multiple locks. It's basically a master key. Now, in RuneScape, I imagine it as a living magical key with its own consciousness. You can even talk to it in-game, allowing you to communicate with it and check which doors and locations you have access to. So let's dive into that for a bit. How exactly would this work? We will start with the most logical step, identifying all the keys in the game and what they can open. Now, of course, there is a massive list of keys used to open specific doors. Some are meant for quests, while others are just for random doors. Now, next to these, let's call them infinite keys, there are also one-time use keys that disappear after being used. These include keys for chests, like Laren's keys, Brimstone keys, crystal keys, and more of that stuff. Additionally, there's also boss keys, such as those for Obor and Bryophyta, as well as keys for minigames like Shades of Morton and keys for the Ham storerooms. Now, if the skeleton key is truly meant to open everything, it must work for all of these as well. But how exactly would that function? Now, I came up with the following idea. Once you obtain a key, you can use it on the skeleton key, and then the key will memorize the shape of that lock and permanently unlock that door. For infinite use keys, such as the Dusty Key for example, you only need to do this once. But keys with charges, for example giant keys, can also be added to the skeleton key. Let's for example say that you have 10 giant keys and 5 mossy keys. You can use them on the skeleton key, which will then absorb their charges. And now, you can use the skeleton key 10 times to enter Obor's cave and 5 times for Bryophyta's lair. And this means that you no longer need to store keys with charges in your bank because they are all stored within the same skeleton key. I will show you an overview of how this might look. The key itself has a check function that opens a menu displaying all the keys stored inside and those you haven't yet collected. The first tab contains all general infinite use keys, such as the Dusty Key, Brass Key, Bone Key, Mining Camp Key, and more like that. The keys you have remembered by the skeleton key are green, and the ones not remembered are red. The second tab shows all charge-based keys and their remaining uses, including boss keys like those for Opor and Bryophyta, as well as keys for chests like the Crystal Key, Enhanced Crystal Key, Grubby Key, and others. And the third tab includes all miscellaneous keys with charges that don't fit into the other categories, such as Ham Storeroom keys, Barrow's Strange Logs, and Shades of Morton keys. But next to this, I have even more in store for the skeleton key. Since it's a magical key, I want to see if we can add extra features. And here's where it gets really interesting. So what if using the skeleton key to open chests resulted into receiving noted loot? Now I know that some chest rewards are already noted, so this wouldn't change much there. But imagine the annoying grubby chest where you constantly get unnoted food and potions. With the use of this feature, you could extend your chest looting trips significantly, which is super useful. And I think an even more exciting example is the impact on the Ham storerooms. This would allow you to pickpocket keys infinitely without needing to bank, and your loot would be noted as well. Now of course this does sound very overpowered, but obtaining the key itself won't be easy, but I will discuss that in a moment. But let's first explore a few more functions. A feature I believe the skeleton key must have is that it functions as a lockpick. Many doors and chests in the game require a lockpick to be opened, and since this is the ultimate key, it should be able to open them too. Now I do have to admit that this idea was partially inspired by the game Skyrim, where a skeleton key exists as well, primarily for lockpicking purposes. Honestly, great game Skyrim, one of my all-time favorites. But anyway, let's get back into OSRS now. So in addition to all the functionalities we have discussed, I think the skeleton key should also be equipable. You can choose to carry it in either your main hand or your offhand, depending on what you prefer. You can compare this to the Imkendo hammer, which can be swapped to the offhand too. So this could save you an inventory slot in certain situations, but honestly, it's also just very cool to walk around with this skeleton key in your hands. And after all that, I do have one more special function in mind for the skeleton key, but I'll come back to that later. Now, even though this key can open nearly everything, there are some exceptions. For example, the key cannot be used on doors that only require a key once before remaining open permanently. For example, the frozen key from the mini-quest The Frozen Door in the God Wars dungeon. And there's also other quests and locations where you need a key only once, like the brittle key for the Grotesque Guardians. But another important thing to mention is, what happens if you die while carrying the skeleton key? If you die a normal death, nothing happens. You keep the key with the charges. However, if you die in the wilderness to a PKer, they will receive all the tradable keys you were carrying at the time. And the reason for this is simple. In my opinion, Larian's keys, zombie pirate keys, and muddy keys should never be completely safe to open. If they were, the risk of opening these chests in the wilderness would disappear, making them less exciting content. So think carefully before bringing the skeleton key into dangerous areas, should it ever be added to the game, of course. Alright, so now we have covered all the ways the skeleton keys can be used and the advantages it brings. But of course the big question is, how do you obtain it? And for that we need to take a look at the origin of its predecessor, the steel key ring. And this leads us to everyone's favorite quest, One Small Favor. Now obviously I'm joking, this quest is probably one of the most frustrating things you've ever done on old School RuneScape. But that aside, in this quest, Yanni Salika, hopefully I pronounced that right, a resident of Shiloh village, asks for your help. He sends you all over the world to fetch a specific item for him, red mahogany logs. Now I must confess that I once tried using a red dye on regular mahogany logs, but unfortunately that didn't work. But okay, I guess we all know this quest, One Small Favor. And I'm so sorry to say it, but I have to. To get the skeleton key, you'll have to suffer through another quest. One Smaller Favor. Now I could go over every single step of this quest in detail, but I'll save that for another time. Right now I just want to focus on what type of quest this will be and what you'll need to complete it. We'll use the existing One Small Favor quest as a baseline, but I can tell you right now, the sequel will be like 3 times as long. It also comes with a long list of required skills and quests. Just to give you a tip of the iceberg, during the quest you'll visit locations like Frevdinas, Fossil Island, Dark Mire, the Myths Guild, the Ice Path, and many more locations. Now these are not easy places to reach, which means you'll need to have completed a lot of high-level quests to even start this one. If you guys want, I could actually write out the full quest in a future video, but I'm not making any promises for this one, because I think this won't be easy. I've never written a quest before, so for this video, let's simply skip to the end. Once you finally complete the quest, you'll receive several rewards. The first one is 2 XP lamps, each granting 50 KXP each in any skill of your choice, level 60 or higher. And of course the main item we did the quest for, the skeleton key, which is an upgraded version of the steel key ring. Now we have already discussed everything the skeleton key can do in the video, but here's just to summarize. First of all, it opens all doors whose keys you've added. Next to that, it can absorb keys with charges, so you don't need to keep them in your bank anymore. And of course, it can open the chests and doors with these charges, and when possible, give you noted loot. It also functions as a lockpick, and it is equipable in either the main or the offhand. But after all this, I want to get back on this extra special feature that I had in mind. With the creation of the skeleton key, I want to introduce a new lootable chest. The skeleton chest. Yanni Salika, the NPC from the One Small Favor and One Smaller Favor quest, has a secret stash containing unusual items. Inside this hidden area, there's a special chest that can only be opened with the skeleton key. However, there is a catch to this. The skeleton key must want you to open the chest before you actually can do it. So how does this work? When you use the skeleton key to open doors, chests, or other locked objects, there's a small chance that the key will start glowing. And when this happens, you must rush to the skeleton chest before the glow fades, because it will only last a couple of minutes. And if you do make it in time, you can open the chest for exclusive loot, being a bone head, bone body, bone legs, bone feet, and bone hands. This is equipable armor that makes your character look like a skeleton. It is purely cosmetic and it has no combat stats, so don't worry about that. Now this is just a first idea for the chest though, and of course I can brainstorm for more interesting rewards, but I will leave that to your imagination. But anyways, so now that we have discussed all the perks of the skeleton key, maybe you've fallen completely in love with this idea, but some people might also think it's too overpowered. So let's weigh the pros and cons of adding a skeleton key to the game. I think there are some obvious pros to this key being introduced. I mean, let's be honest, it's super convenient, no more juggling multiple keys. It also saves you bank space because all the keys are stored in one key. Next to that, you get noted loot from chests, and on top of that, you can equip it and it functions as a lockpick. Now there is a risk of infinite key farming. For example, the muddy chest in the wilderness could be farmed infinitely for loot, and this may be a very good moneymaker that will manipulate the market. And that is the second downside. Some chests could be looted so quickly it will affect item prices. However, keep in mind this important detail: if you die to a PKer, you will lose all your keys charges to that PKer. So the risk does remain high if you take it into the wilderness. So for balance reasons, if the skeleton key ever gets added, Jagex would need to closely monitor its effect on the economy. Or maybe add some kind of cooldown to the noted loot effect, so you can't do this infinitely. Overall, I think the skeleton key would be a fantastic addition to old school RuneScape. I can already imagine walking around, opening any door I want, looting chests, and maybe, just maybe, seeing it glow. But what do you think? Should the skeleton key be added to old school RuneScape? Let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And if you want to watch another video, maybe check out my other video about clue scrolls, which I uploaded earlier this week. I will see you there. Thanks so much for watching, bye bye.